Do you know what the optimal graphic settings are for your setup when it comes to iRacing? Well, if the answer is no, then stick around because I've got a video series coming up that gets started with this video where I'm going to be actually showing you the optimal settings that you can use for your sim racing computer so you can get the highest refresh rate FPS while maintaining the best visual quality. I've done a ton of testing over the last 2 straight days, benchmarking, testing, all kinds of stuff. I got a ton of data to show you, a ton of stuff that we got to cover. And because of that, I've got this broken up into multiple videos. And in this first one, we're going to be taking a look at the actual control panel because that's where everything gets started with your actual GPU settings. So if you've ever wanted to get a better visual quality while maintaining a higher FPS, this is the place for you. So stick around because we start next. What's up, everybody? Thomas Brandon here. Thank you very much as always for joining me. And like I said, we're going to be diving into graphic settings. Now, this video, the idea for this video series really, because it's going to be a couple of videos, I've had people asking me about graphic settings for quite a while. Even back when I did the PC component guide, you know, on what components you should look at getting for different levels of budget and stuff like that. I've had people asking me about graphic settings, what they do, you know, what should you be running, what matters, what doesn't matter, all that stuff. And for the most part, I had a pretty good understanding of what worked and what didn't and what was going to be costing you FPS or visual quality and that type of thing. But I was never 100% sure, and so I never gave definitive answers. I knew it worked for me, but I didn't want to give people definitive answers until I had actually gone through and tested everything. Well, over the last 2 days, that's what I have been doing. I have done about 20 hours of testing, and I did very hard, intensive testing because I wanted to really push my system to the max, so that way I would feel confident about telling you, hey, this is what these are going to do, and this is what you can expect in terms of visual quality gains or losses and FPS gains or losses. Now, before we head over and we get into the control panel settings, first thing you need to understand is that my system is a very powerful system. If you were to look at it in terms of, like, if we were going to break them down in tiers, this would be like a tier 1 system. Okay, I don't say that to brag or anything. I'm telling you that because if you have a system that is not as powerful as mine, these settings might not be the best for you. Now, I'm going to give you options with everything that we look at and kind of give you a range at where you should be or what you should consider. But I just want you to understand that I've got a 10900K CPU with an RTX 3080. If you are on, you know, a 7700K with a, you know, a GTX, you know, 980, these settings that, you know, the optimal settings, the highest settings, the max graphic settings are not going to be what you want to run. So just please understand that when we look at this stuff, okay? But like I said, I'll give you kind of ranges and what to look at and things to expect. Now, in this first video, like I said, we're going to be taking a look at just the control panel settings, okay? I'm going to go through that and explain to you what those are and what you should be using or, you know, running when it comes to your sim racing, because there are things that you might not want to be using because it will actually conflict with the iRacing system when it comes to their graphic settings. And this is something that a lot of people don't understand. The first thing you need to realize about iRacing is iRacing is not a AAA rated game, or a level game, I should say, meaning graphics card manufacturers, specifically Nvidia and AMD or Radeon, they don't optimize for iRacing. Okay, they're not coming out with drivers, game-ready drivers that are specific to iRacing. They don't optimize features and settings for iRacing. That all's got to happen on the iRacing end. Okay, their stuff that, you know, they're going to be far more focused on things like, you know, Fortnite or Call of Duty Warzone, right? These AAA games that have big esports competitions and stuff like that, right? iRacing is not something that's optimized when it comes to drivers and things like that. So And you have to be really particular about what settings you're using with the hardware you have, because you could actually be thinking that, hey, I'm going to turn this up and max out my settings and it's going to give me the best visual quality, and it can actually hurt your system because you don't realize that it's conflicting with something else in the system. All right, and it all starts with the control panel. So let's head over and take a look at that. All right, so first things first is we need to open up the control panel. Now, the control panel is going to be dependent upon your GPU manufacturer, which is basically going to be either NVIDIA or Radeon. Okay, Radeon is the AMD graphics card manufacturer. All right, now I have an NVIDIA card. I have an RTX 3080. Keep in mind, the control panel settings between NVIDIA and Radeon will be a little bit different, but overall, what it is that's available, the options are basically the same, and that's the thing that you need to understand, okay? So, first things first, what you're going to do if you have the NVIDIA control panel, and if you have Radeon, it's similar to this, okay? But you've got different options here. So first of all, you have adjust image settings with preview. If I click on this, you're going to see this thing spinning around right here. All right. And you have this right here where it says use my preference, emphasizing, and then you have a slider. You can have quality, and you can see where this is nice and smooth and pretty. We have here balanced, where it's in between quality, and then lastly performance, and you can see where this is more jagged. Okay. That has to do with the settings, the visual settings. All right. So what I always like to do is I like to set this to performance. I'm going to hit apply. And the reason I do that is because now it's going to change all the 3D settings to performance. All right. So then I can go in here. Now I'm going to go to manage 3D settings, and I can adjust these and add what I want. Okay. That's the way that I like to do it. There's a lot of stuff in here that NVIDIA has. I don't know if Radeon is the same way, because I've never used a Radeon. I shouldn't say never, but it's been a long time since I've used a Radeon control panel. When I built a gaming system that had like an RX 5700 XT in it or something like that. So it was a couple years ago. But NVIDIA has a lot of stuff in here that's just pointless. It really is. I don't get it. A lot of the stuff, it's just pointless. You don't even, it does nothing. It really does. It does nothing. And so it can be very confusing for people, because you can get hung up on a lot of stuff. And there's things in here where they'll even have it labeled where you think like, oh, I want to do this because it's going to increase my performance, and it actually does the opposite of that. Okay, so you have to be very careful. So first things first is the image scaling. All right, we're going to leave this off. Ambient occlusion, we don't even have this in iRacing. Okay, if you play other games, you can turn this on, but we don't even have this in iRacing. So there's no reason for us to have this on. We can't use it. It's not available. It doesn't exist. Okay, if you have a game that it does use, you can turn it on, but for iRacing, you will literally notice nothing with this. All right, so just leave that off. Anisotropic filtering. This one is huge. You want to turn this on, and you want to turn this to 16x, okay? You want this to be maxed out on the global setting. Now, even if you have a lower end system, or like a lower end graphics card, like maybe you have a like a GTX 1660 Super, something like that, still turn this on. At least put it to 8x. Anisotropic filtering does not tax your system that hard, believe it or not, which is incredible because the visual quality that it provides is insane. I remember I did a one-on-one session with a guy one time, and he literally, we were driving the sprint cars, you know, at a dirt track. It was like Eldor or something like that, and he was talking about how he couldn't control the car. Well, he was driving right through the middle of the slick, like dead through the middle of the slick. The problem was he couldn't see the slick. To him, the whole entire track looked the same, and it was just this smooth brown color. Like, he showed me an image, he showed me what he was seeing. Well, one of the reasons he couldn't see it was because he had anisotropic filtering was off. This just makes the picture look blurry. It makes it look like crap. If I bring this over This is over here on the left. This is without anisotropic filtering. See how it's all blurry and looks like crap at a distance? You know, once we get up close, it looks better, but at a distance, it just looks like crap. Over here, you can see it looks much better, much more crisp, just much more realistic. If you're driving and you're noticing that the texture of the track is actually changing as you're getting closer, because this is what will happen in iRacing. It'll look blurry, and as you get closer, it'll get clearer and clearer. And you're gonna be like, what the hell is that? That's anisotropic filtering. So make sure that you have that turned on. At a minimum, do 8x, otherwise 16x. Anti-aliasing FXAA, what we're going to do is we're going to leave this off, okay? iRacing has FXAA and then SMAA in their system. If you start using the graphics control panel AA and then the application AA, there can be some issues where you have conflict and problems with things. And so you want to make sure that you're not doing stuff that's going to conflict and cause issues, okay? Anti-aliasing gamma correction does nothing. It does nothing. I've tested this. I do not see a difference with it at all. Maybe there's games out there with their anti-aliasing where gamma correction actually does something, but from all the stuff that I have seen in my experience with this, I would say 99% of the games out there, all right, including iRacing, the gamma is already corrected in the game itself, in the application itself. So we don't need this, okay? Anti-aliasing mode, once again, right here, what we're going to do with this is we're going to put this to application controlled, all right? We want this to be controlled by the application. Like I said, iRacing has two different types of anti-aliasing. They have FXAA, which is fast approximate anti-aliasing, and then they have SMAA, which is like smooth something anti-aliasing or whatever. There's a ton of different anti-aliasing methods. iRacing has two of them that you can pick from. We'll actually cover in the next video when we go through all the iRacing specific settings, which one does what and which one is best for you. But we want this to be application controlled. We want that controlled by the application. All right, you'll see in here there's off, there's override any application setting, and then there's also enhance any application setting. I have tried all of those. I do not see any enhancement to the anti-aliasing if you use that. I also don't see any improvement or downgrade if you override it. I don't see any of that stuff, and I did not see any improvements or decline in terms of performance. The performance was fairly consistent no matter what. So just do it application controlled, because once again, if you are trying to override or do things like that, it can cause conflict within the system, and we don't want that, okay? Anti-aliasing transparency, what this does is this basically, it provides like super sampling and stuff like that. There's a bunch of stuff out there if you want to learn about it. Once again, not something we need, just leave this to off. Background application, so what this is, for the vast majority of you, you can leave this to off. I have this set to 30 FPS because even on triple monitors, I do a lot of content creation and stuff like that, right? And so I will go in and out of the game. I'll alt tab in and out of the game, or I'll have the game up and I'll be testing something, and then I get out of it and I'm doing, Motec, or I'm, creating a video, I'm just getting B-roll for a video or something like that. And when I bounce out of iRacing, I don't want that thing to still be maxed out doing, 140 FPS in the GPU at 80%. And then now I'm trying to do something in Photoshop, okay? Because that's just going to use up my resources, and it's going to make the system, very, very hard to multitask. So that's what this is. For the most part, you don't need it, because the vast majority of you, like I said, you're just going to be in the sim racing. You're not multitasking on stuff, but that's why I have this, okay? CUDA GPUs, this is stupid. Just leave this at all. I don't even know why that's on here. DSR factors. So DSR factors, what this is this is dynamic super resolution. What this does essentially is it will render the sim or the game at a much higher resolution and then downsize it to improve the image quality. Now, if you are somebody, like if you're on a single monitor, for example, let's say you're on like a single 32-inch monitor, right? And it's a 1080p monitor, and you want the picture to be better or whatever. Like, you can try playing around with this and see if it works. I'm on triples. I can't do this because I can't super sample down to my monitors, right? My monitors, if I took all three of them added up, it's 5760 by 1080. That doesn't exist. So for me, the DSR factors, I have not played with this. This is something that if you want to kind of play around with, you can, but for the most part, you can just leave that off, okay? Low latency mode. So here's the deal. This is one of the things that iRacing came up. They added last build, I think. Maybe the build before. It's been a little while now, a couple months. And this is that NVIDIA Reflex, okay? I have messed around with this. I will put this to on. I saw no difference with Ultra. I just did not see anything where Ultra was better. I put it to on. I do have G-Sync monitors, although I don't use G-Sync. If you put that on, then you can enable that NVIDIA Reflex, and it's supposed to have lower latency for the frames. What I will tell you, in the benchmarking that I did today and all day yesterday, I saw about a 1 millisecond difference, okay? 1 millisecond, obviously, in the grand scheme of things, is not a big deal. But when you're talking about, you know, the amount of frames for triple monitors and stuff like that, if it can prevent stuttering for me, like, I'm more concerned with that than I am with my overall frame rate. So I turn the low latency to on, and then I just use the reflex option in iRacing, and we'll cover that in the next video. Max frame rate, leave that off. You don't want to max out. You don't want to put a cap on your frame rate, okay? Monitor technology, so you have fixed refresh, or if you have a G-Sync monitor, you can use that. Multi-frame sampled AA. This is supposedly an AA method, which is supposed to improve other AA stuff. For me, I just leave this off. I saw no benefit to this at all. I didn't see it. Just, to me, it was just one more thing that doesn't need to be on here. I don't know why we have it. OpenGL rendering GPU. 99% of you who are watching this will never do anything OpenGL, but just make sure it's on your graphics card, okay? I mean, most of you only got one graphics card, so yeah, that's it. Power management mode. This is a big one because a lot of people get this wrong. Put this on normal, okay? Normal. Prefer maximum performance. People think like, oh, that's great, it's going to give me better performance. It doesn't. All it's going to do is just use up a bunch of power that you're not needing, okay? Just leave it on normal. The GPU will get the power it needs from the power supply when it needs it, all right? Shader cache size. So this is a new one that they came out with on the control panel, and this is actually really cool because shader cache, and you guys know from iRacing, they've got shaders and all that stuff like that. What this is this is allowing you to select how much space you want to dedicate to keeping shaders, and this helps load times. It helps rendering in game and stuff like that. I have this set at 100 gigabytes. I have a ton of storage space on this system, so 100 gigabytes for me, I'll just select that. That's far more than I'll ever need for shader storage. And that will make sure that that stuff is saved, and like I said, help me with load times and things like that. Now, if you've only got one drive on your system, right? Like, let's say you bought a pre-built and it came with a 500 gigabyte, NVMe SSD. You might not want to choose 100 gigabytes. That's a lot. Is it going to fill that up? I don't know. It might over time, but I wouldn't be choosing that because that's a fifth of your storage. So you might want to choose, 5 gigabytes, maybe 10, something like that. Next thing we've got here is the texture filtering anisotropic sample optimization. So what this does is this basically limits the number of samples that are being used. Here's the deal, okay? It says down here on the bottom, select on for higher performance, select off if you see shimmering objects. The anisotropic filtering is huge. It's so important to the visual quality of the game. I don't want that to get messed. I don't even want to chance it. So for me, I'm turning this off, okay? Next, we have the texture filtering, negative LOD bias. I'm going to clamp this. The reason why is LOD, or level of detail, we can control that in iRacing. okay? I don't want this being done on the driver of the GPU. If I want to do that, I'll handle that in iRacing. So I'm going to clamp that, okay? Texture filtering, you have some different options here. You have quality, high quality, performance, and high performance. Here's the deal. There's really only two options you want to choose here: quality or performance. High performance is a joke. The improvement that you see with high performance over performance is within margin of error. It's almost non-existent. Likewise, high quality is actually worse than quality, which I don't even know how that's possible, but it is. So just stay away from those two. If you are on a decent system, like I said, you've got a newer Intel or AMD CPU, and you've got a decent graphics card, right? RTX 20 series or newer, or maybe an AMD 5700 card or newer, right? Maybe 6700, 6600, something like that. Put it on quality. If you're on something older, put it on performance, right? There you go. That's really it. Texture filtering, trilinear optimization, on or off. This almost does nothing. Once again, like literally no improvement for this. I leave this on just because that's the NVIDIA default, so that's why I've got that on. Threaded optimization. So basically this is just going to offload to multi-core CPUs, hyper-threaded CPUs and stuff like that, which both AMD and Intel have. It will offload that stuff when needed. I set this to auto because if it needs to do it, it'll do it. There you go. Triple buffering. This is for OpenGL applications. Once again, 99% of you are never going to be doing anything OpenGL. Just leave that off. Vertical sync. So here's the deal. Vertical sync is basically designed to prevent tearing on your monitor. Maybe you have a monitor that's not a G-Sync or FreeSync monitor, so you want to use vertical sync. If you're going to use vertical sync, do that here. I honestly think there's no reason for it, okay? Now, if you're on an older 60 hertz monitor and you've got a really good system and you find that it's pumping out just, the FPS is like 300 and you're seeing screen tearing and stuff like that, then you can do VSync, okay? But otherwise, just leave that off. Virtual reality pre-rendered frames, if you're on VR, just leave that at 1. And then virtual reality variable rate super sampling, once again, I just leave that off, okay? If you want to do more research on VR stuff, there is a ton of videos out there on YouTube because it really depends on the VR headset that you have, what settings you want to do for VR, okay? I have an Oculus Rift S, okay? The settings that I use are not going to be the same that you want to use for like a Quest or something else, okay? So if you want to get more into that, you can, but to me, that's what I do for my VR. Those are the settings that I use and just call it good. All right, you guys. So that's going to do it for this video. Now, like I said, this was the video for the control panel settings. And now that we've got this done, in the next video, we're going to dive into all of the iRacing settings. And I'm going to show you images, pictures, differences, what everything does, what it's worth in terms of FPS and visual quality and stuff like that, okay? But I wanted to get this control panel stuff done and out the way because, like I said before, it can conflict with the iRacing settings, and we don't want to do that. The last thing you want to do is optimize your settings in the application, and then you've got some setting going on in your driver for your GPU, and it's screwing everything up, right? We don't want that. So I wanted to get this done so that way in the next video, you can get all of those settings figured out, and it's going to be a long one because iRacing has a ton of settings, and there is a ton of stuff in there that you can do that will improve the visual quality and barely hurt your FPS. And then there is literally one thing that just kills your FPS. You'll have to wait till the next video to see what that is. But you guys, that'll do it for this one. Thank you very much, as always, for joining me here. Really quick, if you like this, you know what to do. Hit that like button. Make sure to share, subscribe, all that other good stuff. If you want to check out anything else that SSR has to offer, head over to the website, schoolofsimracing.net, and link down in the description below. You can also check out the new website that's going up right now. I'm working on it. as we speak, and it is the new, business venture that I'm doing with my younger brother, which is the Brandon Gaming PCs, where we're actually building gaming PCs now. We've got pre-built systems that we're putting together for people, and selling them to them. So if you are interested in that type of thing, you can check that website out as well. I'll have a link down in the description below for that. The website will be up and operational here in the next couple of days. This testing stuff really took a lot longer than I thought it was going to, so I'm about a day behind on the website, but I'll have that up and going here very, very soon. But anyways, you guys, that's going to do it. Thank you very much, as always, for joining me. Until next time, I want to wish you good luck, good racing. Take care.